Today, I'm going to introduce you to the best therapist that I know, and her name is Janelle Nathaniel Simpson. She's my wife, and we are celebrating 23 years of being together. And I guess my present to her is having this conversation and putting her on the radio. So we're just going to be discussing a bunch of things about our relationships, our ups and our downs, and how we dealt with it. And the story of how we dealt with one of the hardest things we had to deal with was when our daughter was diagnosed with autism. So for all of you parents who do have differently abled children, hopefully, you hear this and you're encouraged and know that we're on your side and we know what you go through in the daily struggles. So without further ado, here's this difficult, awkward, funny, and fun conversation about our ups and downs. Welcome to That Conversation.
So I kind of want to start off with just the beginning. And you looked into my eyes. And we went for a walk, and then boom, we were pregnant. Something like that. There's details in there, but...
Okay, but why do we even have to start from
Okay,
there?
fine, well, okay. But we had our beautiful daughter. When was the first time that you noticed that there was something a little bit different?
Honestly, not until Jaya was 4 years old. And when we first enrolled her in nursery school after we moved to Ajax. I'm sure there were little things that I noticed, but as a parent and as a first-time mother, especially as a first-time mother, you see everything as like a great thing. And, there's no delays or there's no disabilities when they're at a certain age because you don't know any better. So it wasn't until she went to daycare and I remember one day I went to pick her up and her teacher said, "Have you noticed a few things that Jaya does around the house?" And I said, "No." "Well, like what?" And she said, the first thing she said was, "Oh, do you notice that when she plays with her toys, she lines everything up like in a straight line?" And I said, "Yeah, I noticed that, but..."
Yeah, that's good,
That's
isn't it?
nothing. Yeah, I was like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And then she mentioned, the biggest thing for me was she mentioned Jaya's speech. And she's like, have you noticed that she's not able to either formulate words or she uses like a lot of jargon. And that was the one thing that hit home to me because that was the one thing that I had noticed at home was in her speech, she would say one word that we can understand, but everything else was jargon, just jargon babbling.
Is that the word salad thing? Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was just like a jumble of words. So when she mentioned that, then I was like, oh yeah, light bulb. I was like, yeah, I noticed that. And then she said, well, there's a place called Grandview Children's Center, and they deal with a lot of kids with disabilities. And, one of the disabilities that they deal with is autism. And she's like, but I'm not saying that that's what your child has.
Yeah.
And I remember clearly I went home and I said to Dave, can you believe this? Can you believe this lady is telling me my kid has autism?
Yeah.
But at the time, we really knew nothing about it. So after we came home, we set up an appointment and she said, someone can come into the daycare to observe Jaya. And after that, we could tell you what our findings are. And so I came home with Jaya, we spoke about it. And then I think from that minute, I kind of started looking at her a little bit different. Now, I was actually trying to look for all of these different things that they mentioned. And I was like, so is this it? Is this not? What is it? What could it be? And of course, me being a researcher, I went home and I immediately started Googling, autism and what the symptoms were and all of that. So that was our initial introduction to autism, really, was that.
I kind of knew before, but I didn't know what autism was. But I knew that there was something different.
And I am going to add...
Oh, that's normal.
Sorry. And I am going to add that when I came home and I told Dave this, he said to me, okay, I knew since Jaya was like 1.5, 2 years old that there was something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't pinpoint it, but he just knew, I guess, just based on observations with her, that it was different. I then, even now, looking back at old videos of Jaya, because we found some old videos the other day of when she was 1.5, 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny how now, with those blinders off, I can actually see, or I saw back then, like looking at her videos now of when she was that age, I can actually see those little red flags or telltale signs.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I knew that she was. So there's like, I guess people play with these words, right? And there's differently abled, right? And then there's disability. I never saw her as in any way disabled or had like any real problem. I just thought that she was different. I'll tell you when I knew that there was something different about Jaya. When around 2, I remember when she couldn't really speak that well, but remember when she used to point out, we had moved in 2013 from, we were at Scarborough, right? And then we had moved out over to Ajax. And at this time, she would have been about 2.
Yeah, she was 2.5, yeah.
And she knew the directions to our old house. So whenever we would pass it, she would say like, turn right or something like that.
Yeah.
And then whenever we would, come from downtown, and then she would say turn left, but she was talking about our old house. So she knew how to get there. And also when she got hooked on The Sound of Music.
Oh, yeah.
And I noticed that she just knew every single word. Like after the 3rd time she watched it, it was just like verbatim. She'd do the background music with her voice. She would do the lead singing.
Yeah.
She would do like all the parts of every single person. And I just said, that's not normal that she can memorize and remember all that stuff. I mean, the orchestra of The Sound of Music, she knew.
Yeah.
So I knew that that she was just, she was brilliant, in that respect. But selfishly for me, I think I went through the throes of like when people say they're mourning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think coming off of being healthy and an athlete, your whole life is about health and well-being and things like that. I was struggling with how this can happen to someone or 2 people who are primarily healthy. I just assumed that there had to be, I don't know, like some kind of birth defect. Like I had all those stigmas in my mind because I wasn't educated. And so I went through the whole denial and then anger and then I went through a whole gauntlet of different emotions.
Yeah.
But I finally came to the understanding when I had to battle with my own situation. And I learned that my daughter doesn't know that she's on the lower spectrum of autism. She doesn't know that though.
Yeah.
Until we educate her.
Exactly.
And how we educate her in terms of how we treat her, we can either show her how to feel sorry for herself, or we can show her the benefits of the different ability that she has. Yes, she may not have some of the other attributes that other people may have in terms of what they are able to do naturally, but she also has other things that she can do way better than everybody else.
I was going to say, way better than...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us as parents, it's important for us to remember that. I remember this wise person saying, you just kind of cover up the negatives and focus on the positives. There was this guy, Arjen Robben, who's a Dutch footballer, plays for the Dutch national team, or just retired anyways. And he had a terrible right foot. He couldn't kick with it, couldn't dribble with it or anything. And they were trying so hard to get him to learn how to kick with his right foot. And but he had a brilliant left foot. And so finally, one of the coaches said, you know what? We're trying so hard to make his right foot as good as his left foot. Why don't we just make his left foot the best in the world so that nobody can stop it? And to this day, everybody knows he's going to shoot with his left foot, but they can't stop it because he's so brilliant at it. And I say that's the approach that I would like to have, with my daughter. The things that she can't, what's the serenity prayer, right? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
And I think with her, I want her to learn, okay, these are the things that I I have no
Yeah.
control over.
Mm-hmm.
However, these are things that I do,
Right.
and I'm going to focus on those things.
Mm-hmm.